Hello YouTube and welcome back to another Blender tutorial. This is video 3 in the making a basic game in Blender. I would like to say that I saw a request to do the same sort of tutorial but with Python, so that should be coming out soon. I'm not exactly sure how soon though, because I have classes starting soon. So we'll see how that goes. I'd like to do that though. So today we're going to be adding something that's pretty important to our game. We're going to be adding levels. So we're going to have a few different, coin setups, maybe a level with some challenges like some cubes to jump up on and stuff like that. So what we want to do though is we want to sort of set our first scene up here to be something that we can easily just duplicate and make a new level out of. So one of the things we're going to do in order to achieve that is we're going to select our cube and we're going to hit the M key. And this lets us move this cube to a different layer. So we're going to move it to the second layer, which is in the same place where we're storing our coin. And in our first layer, we're going to add another one of these empties that will be our player spawn. So we're going to hit Shift A, empty. We should maybe make this one a little different than the others, so I'm going to choose the cube. This is actually my first time messing with the cube empty. I'm going to say that looks pretty interesting, but that will work nicely because that matches the shape of our character. And just like these empties that we added in the last video, we're going to just simply have this object add in our player object. So we're going to add a always sensor. Let me get that window up. Add a and controller and a edit object actuator. Just wire them straight across like that. And the add object, we are going to add the cube. Okay, so returning to our 3D window, if we hit play, we can see that our player does spawn in and it works just like it did before. But you'll see kind of why we did this sort of thing a little later. Okay, so we're ready to start making the new levels. Actually, one thing we should do is we should position this camera, because whenever you start the game from like a standalone, it will always go to this camera. Also, whenever you switch scenes, it will switch to this camera. So you can select the camera and then go to this camera's view by hitting 0 on the number pad, or by going to view and then I believe, I'm not actually sure about this, camera. There we go. Just view camera. So 0 on the number pad, and anything inside of this square is what's going to be seen, which means not a whole lot in our case here. And we can move this camera straight back by hitting G for grab. That lets us move the camera around, and then hitting the middle mouse wheel. And if you just press it down once and then release it, we can drag just kind of forward and back, which is kind of like zooming in and out. So we're just going to zoom out till the whole platform's in view, and there we go. Okay, so part of the thing that we're going to do while we're setting up to make this kind of our base level is we're going to want to improve some of the lighting. So some of the things I want to change is you'll notice that the shadows or the dark sides of the objects are really, really dark. And there's no shadows. I kind of want to add shadows in. Well, by default, Blender starts up in what's known as multi-texture view, which does not support shadows directly. So what we need to do is go to the render tab down here, scroll down, and hit this little checkbox. It's GLSL, and that will let us use shadows. We're then going to go through our 3D window, select our lamp, and we're going to go to the lamp settings down here. And we're going to switch it from a point lamp to a sun, so just click on sun. There we go. And you'll notice it doesn't look like any lighting's changing up here, and that's because we're still in solid view, which is kind of like a, I guess, a render or color only preview of what the world will look like. So we want to get kind of a real-time update of what it will look like in game. So all we have to do is select this little button here, and we're going to choose texture shading. So now this platform should be at least about the same color as what it displays here whenever we start the game. So if we hit P to play the game. Okay, so now we've got some shadows. They're a little dark, but we'll fix that in just a second. So we're going to hit Shift A, and we're going to add a lamp. And this is going to be a Hemi lamp. And what this does is it lights the objects from 180 degrees, so it will basically eliminate our shadows. But one thing we want to do is we want to go down here and uncheck specular, and then turn the energy way down. So let's try like 0.3 maybe. Let's try that. Play the game, and you'll notice that the shadows are a lot less intense now. Okay, so there's one minor problem right now, and that is that whenever we go over to this top right corner, the shadow for the cube disappears, and that just has to do with how the sun lamps calculate their shadows. You can fix this by going to the lamp settings, select the lamp, go into lamp settings, and just up the frustum size. Play the game, go to the top right. Shadow still disappears, so we need to actually move this lamp away a little bit. So it's kind of back further in this corner. Play the game again. Go up here, and it stays all around. Okay, so that's got our game looking kind of nice. One other thing I want to change really quickly is the color of our player. So go to the second layer, which is where we have our player at. You'll notice it's really dark right now. And that's because we changed this viewport to texture shading, which gives us kind of a live preview. Well, there's no lamps in the second layer, so we're not actually going to have any light. And without light, there's darkness. So we're going to just hit Shift A, add a Hemi lamp, and that just kind of lets us see all of these objects, kind of how they'll appear in game. So I'm going to select our player cube, go to the materials tab down here, select the diffuse color, and you can make it any color you want. I'm gonna make mine orange though, because orange is my favorite color. So we're gonna go ahead and go back to our first layer, hit play key. You see there we've got our cube running around. And we can collect the coins, and we see that our score updates. Okay, so now we've got this level set up so that we can just kind of duplicate it and make a brand new level. So let's start out by naming this scene something appropriate. So right now, you'll notice our scene is just named, well, scene. But we want to name it something a little more meaningful. So all we have to do is click there, and we can type in whatever we want for the name. So let's go ahead and type in level 1, because this is the first level. So then what we're going to do is we're going to click this little plus, which will add a brand new scene, and we're just going to hit new, and that's going to be completely empty. Now, there are a few things that you're going to have to change to get this to work the same as your first scene. And I think there's probably preferences where you can change this, but I haven't seen any yet. So you notice that this little thing up in the center has switched back to Blender Render. Well, we want to switch that back to Blender Game. Also, on the Scene tab here, we need to reselect GLSL shading. So go ahead and click that. And this is something that we're not going to really mess with, but it should be noted that in the world tab here, you'll notice the world has materials, and in this new scene, it hasn't used the same material as the first one. Well, we're going to use the exact same material. It's not critical that you get that, but later on, it might help you out. Okay, so our scene is really empty, and we want to add in the same objects that we have in our first scene. Well, what we're going to do is we're going to link them much in the same way that we did the layers, so that if we change the object in one place, it changes it all over the place. So say we have 20 levels all put together. They're really nice. But then we decide, the player needs to be moving a little faster. The game is kind of slow. Well, you would normally have to go and adjust the speed of the player in every single scene. That gets kind of annoying. So what we're going to do is we're going to link the objects. So if you decide that the player is going a little slow, you change it in one place and it updates it on all of the levels. So to do that, let's go ahead and name this second scene something more meaningful. Let's call it level 2. And go back to our first scene. So just hit this little button and select level 1. And we're then going to hold down the shift key. Let me bring up my keyboard. Hold down the shift key and left click on the second layer button. This will then display both the first and second layers. So you'll see we kind of have our cube empty, all of the empties for the coins. We also have our coin there, and we have a couple of lamps. We're then going to hit A twice, or until all of the objects in the scene are selected. You can tell that they're selected when they're outlined in orange or colored in orange. And we're then going to hit Control L. And then this brings up this menu called Make Links. We're going to do Objects to Scene. So we're going to do level 2. Okay, well now all of these things have gotten green dots on them. And if we go to the second scene, level 2, we'll notice that now all of the objects are here. Sweet, right? There is a bit of an issue here though. If we move, say, one of these spawners here, if we move that over here and go back to the first level, it's moved in the first level too. If we move it in the first level and go back to the second level, oh, it moved in the second level as well. And for the spawners, we probably don't want that. So to fix that, all you have to do is select the spawner, hit the U key, and then hit Object. So there you go. In hindsight, we probably could have made these spawners, could have done just one spawner on a base level, so that we wouldn't have to select all of those and do the make single user. But this way will work fine. It's not that bad. So now in this second level, we can move all of these objects wherever we want, all of these spawner objects. We can even change where our player will spawn, and we can add more spawn points here for the coins. So we have more coins on this level. And there we go. So we can test this level out the same way we test the first one. Just mouse over the 3D window, hit P to play. You see we got coins and the cube. This is why we did the same sort of spawning technique with the player, is because now we can have our player linked to the first scene, but still change where it starts the second level. So we want our player to move a little faster. Well, we can change that, and it'll change that on both the second level and the first level. Okay. So now we want to make it so that the player goes to the next level whenever they collect all of the coins. So we're going to go to our first level here. And we're going to go just to the second layer so we can select our player. And we're going to need to change the way... Oops, actually, I didn't want to move that. Oh well. So we're going to need to change the way that the cube adds to the score. We're actually just going to need to sort of add something additional to it. All we need to do is we need to add an actuator, and this is going to be a message actuator, and wire that into the same controller that's adding to the score property. And this is just going to be so that we can tell all of the objects in the scene that the cube has gotten a score. So we can leave the to field blank because we don't care which object it goes to. The subject is going to be, we can do anything that has to do with getting a coin. So let's do got coin. And just take note of the spelling and capitalization because we're going to have to remember that later. Okay, so then on the first layer of this scene, of the level 1 scene, we're going to select our spawner. And we are going to add a message sensor, and here's where we need that subject, so got coin. So this sensor will activate every time it gets the message got coin, and our player object will send out the message got coin every time it hits a coin. So then we're going to add a controller and add a property actuator. So then we're going to add a new property over here. We're going to name it, how about coins? We can make that a integer. And then on the property actuator, instead of a sign, we're going to switch it to add. So we're going to add the property coins, a value of 1. So every time we get a coin, this coin property will go up. Okay, so then we want to see when all of the coins have been collected. Well, we need to know how many coins are in the scene. Well, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 in this particular instance. You may have more or less, depending on how you did it, but all we need to do is add a property sensor, and we're going to check to see if the property, there we see coins, we're going to just check to see if the property coins is equal to the number of the coins that we have in the scene. So in this particular level we have 5 coins that are going to be spawned in, so we want to check to see if coins is equal to 5. Add a AND controller and add a scene actuator. And this scene, instead of restarting, is going to do set scene, and then we can click on here and choose the scene that we want to go to, and we're going to hit level 2. So whenever the coins property is equal to 5, and remember the coins property is going to have 1 added to it every time the player hits a coin, whenever that is equal to 5, which is also the number of coins that we have in the scene, we are going to switch the scene to level 2. So now if we go to our 3D window and we hit P to play the game, we have our player, we can move him around, we can grab the coins, and whenever we grab this last coin, we switch to the second scene, which looks empty. It's probably because of the camera. Okay, sorry about that. I had to pause the recording for like 5 minutes, but I'm back. So I think when I left off, we were getting ready to test this. One thing is, whenever we did test it, the second level was just a blank screen. All we have to do to fix that is switch to the camera in our first level. So you can hit 0 on the number pad or go to View and click Camera. So then whenever we play our game now, we can move around, we can get the coins, and whenever we get the last coin, we go to the next level. Alright, that's pretty good. So one final thing to do then is add this same sort of logic to our second level. Again, in hindsight, should have added this in before we made the new level. So we need to select our spawner, add the game property coins. Oops, I have caps locks on. I do apologize if you can hear my computer fans whining in the background, but something's something's up with it and it's making this really sort of obnoxious noise. So anyway, we add the coins property, add a message sensor that's looking for the message got coin, add a and controller. Let me go ahead and switch to the logic window, and add a property actuator. This property actuator will just simply add to the property coins a value of 1. And then finally, whenever the property coins is equal to, in this level we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 coins. So I'm going to put in 8. Your number might be a little different. I'm going to do and for now we can just set this scene to set our scene back to level 1. So right now it'll just loop around, and then later whenever we add the third level, we'll change this actuator to go to level 2. Okay, so now we need to display or add a display for our score. So to do that, we're going to hit the little plus here next to the scene to add a new scene. And we need to do the same thing that we do whenever we add a new scene. We need to switch this from Blender Render to Blender Game. Go down to the Render tab and hit GLSL, and we're good to go. So this scene is going to contain all of the GUI, or graphical user interface. So this is going to contain the score display, our mute and unmute button, and things like that. So I'm going to name the scene something meaningful. Since this scene is going to be over top of all the others, I'm just going to call this one Overlay. So we're going to hit Shift A, add a camera, because every scene needs a camera. Hit Alt R to clear the rotation so it's pointed straight down like that. And we can drag it up on the Z axis like so. Switch to the camera view with either 0 on the number pad or going to View Camera. And then we're going to hit Shift A, add text, enter edit mode by pressing Tab, and then we can type in whatever text we want. I'm going to type in score and then colon. So this will be just kind of showing, this is what your score is. Hit Shift D to duplicate that. Go next to the score, enter edit mode again with tab, and I'm just going to enter a few zeros to hold space for the actual score that we'll display there. So then what we need to do is we need to tell this score to add every time we get a coin. Well, remember in our first level scene, every time our player object hits a coin with this collision sensor, it sends out a message with the subject got coin. And the nice thing about messages is that they can travel between scenes. So we can use that same message in our overlay scene to add to our score. So we're going to select our score, like the numbers here, and we're going to add a message sensor. The subject is going to be got coin. I have caps locks on again. So got coin. Add a and controller. And then we're going to add a property actuator. In the properties, then we're going to add the text game property, switch it from string. You can do integer. We'll just do integer. Those are whole numbers. And then on the property actuator, we're going to assign the property text equal to, actually no, we're not going to assign it, we're going to add to it. And let's go ahead and do 10. So every time we get a coin, we'll add 10 to our score. Okay. So then we're going to go to level 1, our level 1 scene, and we're going to go to the first layer. Select our camera, and then we're going to make it so that this adds the overlay scene so that we can actually see our score. So we're going to do always and controller, and then a scene actuator. And the scene actuator is going to add an overlay scene, And we're going to click on the scene field, and we're going to add the overlay scene overlay. So now whenever we play the game, we can see in the top left we have the score display. It's hidden by some text, so let's go ahead and turn that extra text off. So go to game, show debug properties, uncheck that. So now whenever we play, we see score in the top left. Whenever we grab a coin, it goes up. And you can see whenever we switch to the next level, we have our score right there again. So we continue adding to our score. Okay, so I think next video, we're going to be adding a few more levels. And most importantly, we're going to be adding a menu to play the game and to go to after the game is over. Or maybe we'll do a finished game screen. Actually, yes, let's do that. We'll do a finished game screen. So whenever you finish the game, you get this screen saying, congratulations, you beat the game. I think we'll also do the sounds. So we'll add the sounds to the coins and the sound whenever you finish the level. And maybe depending on how long that goes, maybe we'll add in the button that triggers the ramp. Anyway, I hope you guys have enjoyed. I hope you've learned a good bit so far. I hope you continue to learn. I will say I have college classes starting soon, so I may not be able to upload for a while, or I may not be able to upload very often. So that's kind of unfortunate. So I'm hoping that this video series gets finished before then, though. Or at least get you guys started with some ideas on what you want to see done. Anyway, enough talking. I want to thank you guys very much for watching, and enjoy the rest of your day.